good afternoon. For one final time, welcome back to Estoril, a sun-drenched Portuguese circuit where the opening round of FIM CEV Repsol action is coming to an end. Before that, though, we have one race left, the European Moto2 Championship, where earlier today, Jari Montoya clinched a debut win in the championship despite having to start from 7th on the grid. Now he starts from pole position. Can any of his nearest title rivals stop him over the next 18 laps? Jack Appleyard and Lewis Sotheby here once again in the commentary booth in Estoril. Unfortunately, we do have the air conditioning unit working because it is a scorching Tuesday afternoon just outside of Lisbon. The sun still shining down, not a cloud in the sky. Perfect conditions for us to start the 2020 FIM CEV Repsol Series. And as a result of that, we of course got the European Moto2 Championship underway. And it was a great opening race earlier today. 18-lap battle that in the end went the way of Jari Montoya, but he had to work for it, Lewis, didn't he?
He did. He made a bit of a mess of the start, didn't he? He ran wide at turn 1 and lost a number of places. Had to come from 11th position at the end of the first sector of the first lap. But as you'll see through this race, made very quick progress to call himself into contention in that leading group. Here he is, going up the inside of Lukas Tuljevic to move into the podium positions.
Eventually he was able to battle his way past Tuljevic, as you rightly say, and then set his sights on the leading duo ahead of him. First compatriot Alessandro Zaccone that he managed to get in front of fairly easily. And meanwhile, another Italian crashed out further down the field in Alessandro Zetti. Back at the front though, and eventually Jari Montoya made his move for the lead. Followed Nicky Tully for a couple of laps, studied him and eventually jumped in front of the Finn with 8 laps remaining. And despite trying his level best, Tully was unable to respond to the pace of Montoya, who eventually broke clear and took victory in dominant fashion. The battle for third place, however, really went down to the wire, with Tuljevic on the start of the final lap right here making his move, but unfortunately ran ever so slightly wide in a few moments, and it allowed Zaccone to squeeze back in front before then Tuljevic dragged him to the line to take a first podium finish in this championship since 2018. But delight for Jari Montoya, first ever win in the European Moto2 Championship. He did it the hard way. Now he'll have to do it the easy way because he starts from pole position instead of 7th on the grid. Let's see how he gets on. Fortunately, conditions here haven't changed throughout the day. If anything, the temperature has just gone up and up and up to 32 degrees now. Track temperature of 113 degrees Fahrenheit, 45 Celsius. It's a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday afternoon in Portugal. And again, with 18 laps, it's a real slog for these guys on the Moto2 machine. So let's see how they get on. But as we said, it's going to be Jari Montoya starting from pole position. Here's what he had to say yesterday after securing a debut pole. We didn't hear from him early because he started from 7th, but now that he is starting from pole, let's hear what he had to say.
With my team, we found a good setup and nothing. I am a good pass for a race, I think, but also we see the other riders and my mates. But the race is cool.
Well, there you go. We're quite happy, Jari Montoya, in a quite noisy pit lane, but he seems pretty pleased. You can see he's on the speed-up machine. He's the only speed-up on the grid, and he's actually got a few of the mechanics that will go with the speed-up team and follow them around in the World Championship there as well. A few familiar faces from the World Championship in that garage. So he's got some good men working on the bike, and he's made a real step up from 2019 into 2020, Lewis.
It's a chassis as well that seems to have really improved over the last year or so. It certainly caught our attention last season with the likes of Jorge Navarro and Fabio Di Gianantonio in the Moto2 World Championship, taking regular podiums. And of course, Jorge Navarro was at one stage a championship contender in that class, and Montoya taking full advantage. And as we talked about earlier on, he looked, along with Nicky Tulli, as the class of the field, and although he didn't get to start from pole position, it didn't seem to inconvenience him that much in the end. Here's the rider who did start from pole position earlier on today and found himself under attack from Montoya and forced to settle for second.
Nicky Tulli, of course, a part of the FIMNL Moto2 World Cup, along with a number of riders. In fact, we've got 5 of them, 5 of the grid, all here today, trying to get in a little bit of practice before that gets underway. But these guys are all doing it, the European Moto2 Championship, that is, for the full season, as Nicky Tulli did last year as well. But unfortunately, it was cut short by that leg break in Massano. I'm sure he'll be pleased to finally get a race under his belt after that long, long absence. The man that just missed out on the podium earlier today and was absolutely fuming as a result is Alessandro Zaccone. We'll start from the front row once again, and I'm sure he'll have a keen eye on the number 3 of Lukas Tulovic after he stole his 3rd place finish away from him on the run to the line.
Yeah, he'll be hoping to be waving his fist in joy this time rather than in anger and frustration at having lost that podium position within metres of the checkered flag earlier on today. Zaccone, at one stage, he looked as if he was going to keep the front 2 in check, and then of course he fell back into the clutches of the German Tulovic. Speaking of, here he is 3rd, of course, in the championship by virtue of his 3rd place for the number 3 earlier on today, and starts 4th for this one. Of course, he performed very well earlier on. Of course, he's got previous in this category. 3 podiums now, continuing the theme. It is the magic number for Lukas Tulovic. He's now got 3 podiums in the European Moto2 Championship, and he won't want to stop there.
Now the shaven-headed Tulovic, of course, as we saw as he took his helmet off, got rid of the very stylish, very trendy quiff and gone for, well, a slap head look. He's gone for a number 1 all over, and it suits him, to be perfectly frank. It's a good look for Lukas Tulovic, going down the route that many people have done over the lockdown period. Here's the Andorran Xavi Cardelou, started life in this European Moto2 Championship earlier today with a 7th place finish. Just got the better of him did his teammate Piotr Biesakowski, who we're going to meet very shortly in the closing stages, who had a tremendous ride. 18 years of age from Poland, as we mentioned earlier, but it's worth mentioning again, only been on a bike for the past 5 years, but he was able to finish in the top 5 of this European Championship. His best finish in the championship by a long, long way. And
yeah, here is the 18-year-old, and he seemed to get stronger as the race went on earlier on, which was particularly impressive. He didn't sort of get the pace wrong. He didn't go out too hot at the start. He just chipped away at it, got stronger and stronger as the race went on, showed good consistency as the race unfolded. And he ended up picking off Alejandro Medina towards the end for a great result, for a 5th place. So given that this is essentially his first full season in the CV Moto2, although he has, of course, raced in this class last year, it's not a bad way to start, is it? Given that, as we've mentioned, he's probably short in experience compared to the others, you think the only way is up for him.
Yeah, it showed great maturity. It was a great ride for a kid that's just 18 years of age. And now we go even younger as well, just 15 years of age. Fermin Aldeguer, the man that finished 3rd in last year's European Talent Cup. Surprised many by moving into the Superstock 600 class, but it proved to be a good move earlier today. Finished inside the top 10 and was comfortably the best Superstock 600 rider. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't do that again in this 2nd race. Alejandro Medina, another of the Moto E contenders on this grid, will start from 8th. 6th earlier on today, just missing out on a top 5 finish after Biesakowski pipped him in the final lap. As we see our friends there waving them off, he's saying, come on lads, hurry up, but it looks as though we've got a little bit of a traffic jam as all of the mechanics tried to make their way off the grid. There's Jari Montoya then, a first pole position and a first chance to actually start from pole position in the European Moto2 Championship after that 6th place grid penalty saw him start from 7th earlier on today. Here is the starting grid with the number 55 at the front of it. Joining him on the front row, Nicky Tulli and Alessandro Zaccone. Row 2, Lukas Tulovic, Xavi Cardelou and Piotr Biesakowski. With row 3, the stock 600 of Fermin Aldeguer, Alejandro Medina and the Malaysian Adam Noureddin.
Leading the fourth row, we have Teiga Hada on the 23 ahead of Mattia Rato and Takeshi Ishizuka. Alex Toledo is the second of the Superstock 600 runners in 13th on the grid ahead of Kevin August and Sam Wilford. Joan Diaz is another Stock 600 rider. He's ahead of Alessandro Zetti with Nicholas Shiba, another Stock 600 rider, in 18th spot.
The final row of the grid, Leon August, Jake Archer and Andreas Koffler, with a notable absence being Huddersfield's Kyle Smith. Crashed out of race one earlier on today after coming together with, I think it was it Alejandro Diaz maybe? It was Joan Diaz, sorry, the pair coming together, and as a result there is no Kyle Smith on the grid. Unfortunately, the Huddersfield rider who was hoping to be in the World Supersport Championship once again this year, but as a result of economic, financial issues, it doesn't look like he's going to be a part of that grid, so he teamed up with Jake Archer's team, Ryan Saxelby's concern, the Cavaro RS Racing squad that have been battling in the British GP2 Championship, which runs alongside the British Supersport Championship, to get a little bit of experience here with no indication. I don't know whether he's actually thinking of joining the British GP2 series this year. Of course, a championship that was won by a certain Jack Kennedy last year as part of the Appleyard Macadam squad. I have to squeeze that one in.
Yeah, the name of that team may not be a coincidence to the name of my co-commentator. One other name, actually, to mention, another rider who won't be on the grid today. You didn't see him in race one earlier. It's also Connor Funk, the American rider who unfortunately had a tough time of it in qualifying. He's also got a British connection because he's on the British Nikos bike, and unfortunately found the going tough in qualifying. Also had a crash, and unfortunately we haven't seen him out on the grid today.
Great shame for the man that comes from Greendale, California. It's a long, long way to come to not be able to get onto the grid, but he's going to be with us in Portimao in 6 days' time as well, so hopefully for the American it goes a little bit better there. He certainly has the talent, the 2019 AMA Superstock 600 champion, but that Nikos machine just looking like it needs a little bit of further work over the coming days to get it ready to be on the grid in Portimao. But all our focus here is on the grid for Estoril, which Jari Montoya will front for the first time today. Just like we saw in the European Talent Cup race, tactics were used to try and stop David Alonso from escaping. I think we're going to have to see the same here from Tuuli and Zaccone, because given the pace that he showed so easily coming through the field in race one, if he hits the front early here, it could well be a Jari Montoya solo demonstration run.
Yeah, of course, he had to make that ground in race one, partly because of his penalty and partly because of his very leery entry into turn one. So he'll hope not to have those same problems again. And he'll be looking to set that incredible pace which brought him into contention in race one, and do it from the start this time.
Nicky Tuuli will have something to say about it. I can absolutely guarantee that. The Finn has won a race here around Estoril, actually coming at the expense of Jari Montoya over 12 months ago in wet conditions, but that is a thing of the past now, banished earlier by Jari Montoya as he took victory. Race two here, the final race of the day on a superb opening day of the FIM-CV Repsol Championship. The lights are on and they're out. We're underway in the European Moto2 Championship, and it's a good start from pole position from Jari Montoya, but it's an even better start from the outside of the front row by Alessandro Zaccone, the Italian. Moves his way to the front of the field and takes the whole shot into turn one, with Tulovic getting a good jump from row two as well. Meanwhile, it's Tuuli, the man that went backwards. We have someone just languishing at the back of the pack. Not sure who that was. It certainly wasn't any of the front runners with the front four, the same front four we had this morning, all battling it out once again.
Yeah, it was Nicholas Shiba, I think, who went off at turn one. He's yet to come through the first sector, and he's the only rider who hasn't done so. So I think he was the rider, there he is, on the 86, who stopped on the outside of turn one. So his Superstock 600 Yamaha didn't make it very far at all. But yeah, Zaccone got a great launch off the line. It was quite an even start amongst the front three, but Zaccone just seemed to pick up the toe. Although that's what Montoya's doing now. Montoya and Tuuli both making moves. Tuuli on Tulovic into turn six, having been outbroken by him into turn one. Both of the pre-race favourites making slightly tardy getaways, but both making up for lost ground immediately.
Well, this is a dangerous sight for everybody from second place. Further down, Jari Montoya hits the front nice and early in this one. He showed great confidence just moving past Alessandro Zaccone there. Can anybody respond to the Italian? Just 20 years of of age, but showed great talent earlier on today. Was not fazed in the slightest by his disastrous opening lap. This time, it's a perfect opening lap. He's going to lead them across the line. We're still 17 laps to go at the end of this one. Plenty can happen.
Some big movers further down the field. Adam Norradin's gone up 4 places. He's gone from 9th on the grid up to 5th, and Tega Harder started 10th. He's already up to 7th. They've both overtaken the leading Superstock 600 runner of Fermin Aldeguer, who, as we expected, much like he did in the first race, finding himself a little bit outgunned once this race gets underway. He's dropped from 7th to 8th.
Nicky Tully has spotted the danger because he's got himself ahead of Alessandro Zaccone. He cannot play a waiting game, Tully, with Montoya at the front. He had to get in front of Zaccone. It's exactly what he's done, and now he's going to try and close in on Montoya and stop his rhythm and stop the number 55 of escaping. Meanwhile, we're talking about guys that have gone forward on that opening lap. One person that went backwards was the man we were singing the praises of just a couple of minutes ago, Pieter Biesiakowski. Top 5 finish first time around, but he's dropped back to 10th on the opening lap.
Yeah, the last thing he wanted. Cardelus has also gone backwards ever so slightly. He was on the 2nd row of the grid. He's now down in 8th position, just ahead of Aldeguer and Biesiakowski. You'll see him just in the back of shot as we look at the number 7 of Norradin, who had a bit of a quiet race 1 earlier on today, finished down in 9th position, but he's already showing better form this time around. He's now up to 4th.
As a result of a mistake from Lukas Tulovic, and that mistake from the German is not going to cost him 1 place, but 2 places. Runs wide and allows both Norradin and now Medina to squeeze through. A costly mistake for the German through turn 6.
Yeah, very costly indeed. Montoya, though, is showing very strong pace up front. Fastest man in the 2nd and 3rd sectors on this lap. He's stretching that lead already over half a second over Nicky Tully. Tully's going to have to respond very quickly. Now that he's got himself into 2nd place, he's made short work of those 2 riders who got ahead of him off the line. Tully's now going to have to try and latch onto the back of Montoya and stop the Italian from bursting clear.
Well, his fastest lap of the race earlier on today, a 1:41.2. He's going to come across the line here, his first flying lap, Montoya, and already he's been able to put in a 1:41.7, so he's on the pace straight away. No messing about from Jari Montoya. Nicky Tully only a 10th behind, incidentally, so he's not been able to escape too much, but the gap still sits at 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, Tulovic in the background was having a go at Alejandro Medina. He came across the line ever so slightly ahead of him, but I think Medina managed to get back ahead as they went across the line. We've got a rider slowing, that's Kevin August. Unfortunately, he's moved in to the Moto2 class, having ridden a stock 600 bike last year. He was 3rd overall in the stock 600 class in race 1 here last year, but unfortunately his race 2 in 2020 has ended a lap and a half in.
Brother at the moment, Leon August, 4th in a stock 600 class, which, surprise, is being led by Fermin Aldeguer. Inside the top 10 once again is the 15-year-old Spaniard having another good run on that Yamaha R6. At the front, though, still Jari Montoya that leads the way. Tully is sticking with him this time around, though. It's a good lap coming in from Tully. Looks like being the fastest lap of the race, and he needed to put it in as well because Montoya was just flirting with the idea of escaping at the front. Meanwhile, here's a highlight of the start. We'll be able to see a very equal, as you say, Lewis, jump from everybody on the front row of the grid. It was a great start from Tulovic, though, from row number 2 of the grid. Quickly cut to the inside and was able to get ahead of Nicky Tully to pick up 3rd place.
Yeah, I was trying to keep an eye on where Norradin was. He was just on the inside there into turn 1, and I think that's where he made up a lot of his ground and found himself up in 5th at the time. Of course, he's since moved up to 4th. He's now coming under a bit of pressure, as you'll see, just coming onto the main straight now. He's got a queue behind him of Medina and Tulovic, who are both getting ready to have a run at him into turn 1. As Montoya sets briefly the fastest lap of the race, but it's immediately beaten by Tully. They're both within a 10th of each other in the 141s, and they're breaking clear of Zaccone.
I'm not sure what happened there. It looks as though, I'm not sure who that was, but suddenly something blew off the rear of someone's bike. I thought it was Medina to start with. A little bit of debris just blew across the track there. I swear it came off someone's bike as well. We need to see a replay of it just to confirm it. Well, that was a scary moment there. I'm not sure if it was Norradin or maybe Medina. There it is. That's the debris. It looks like it's the wheel guard on the front of a bike, so it's come off someone. Let's just have a look. It's off Norradin. It's off Norradin's bike. You can see it's naked on the front of that bike, or is it? No, it's not. It's there as well. Maybe it's the rear guard, but it's certainly come off someone. Is it Tulovic's machine? No, that's there in bright red. Is it off the rear of Norradin? Well, I'm not sure what it is and where it come from. Here's a replay. You can see, just have a look at the back of the picture here. This battle for 4th place. Oh, it's come off
I think it's come off Medina's bike by the looks of it on the number 5. I think it flies off the back of his bike just ahead of Noureddin as he's overtaking him. But in any event, hopefully that debris has been cleared for the start-finish straight before the riders come back round again. They're up at turn 9 and 10 at the moment, so a couple more corners before they come back around onto the start-finish straight again, because that's the last thing you want in the middle of the racetrack as you're getting ready to make an overtake into turn 1.
Well, it certainly looked like it came from the rear of the bike, maybe even part of the belly pan, which if it does, that means it's going to be a black and orange flag for Medina. The belly pan's still intact there, which is good news for him. Can't really see what's come off, to be perfectly frank. There's nothing obvious to our eye anyway. It looks as though it's not affecting his performance anyway, because he's broken clear of Noureddin in 4th place. Meanwhile, back at the front, well, both Montoya and Tooley set the fastest lap of the race. They're absolutely equal, a 1:41.541 for the pair of them as they come across the line. The gap 0.3 of a second. You don't see that very often.
No, well, we said already that there's very little to choose between them, and that just about proves it. And much like in the first race, it's Zaccone who appears to be the only one to keep them even slightly in range, although of course he did that earlier on and then slipped back. And this battle for 4th place is really raging on. We've got 5 riders in this, with Medina leading Tulovic, Noureddin, and Cardelus and Biszczykowski have both closed in on this group, lapping in the 42s. Biszczykowski, of course, came on strong at the end of race 1, and if he does that again, he might be finding himself within touching distance of an even better result than he got earlier today when he finished 5th.
I'm still trying to stare at Alejandro Medina's bike just to try and spot what it is, but still don't have a clue what that was that flew off. We think it was the number 5 of Alejandro Medina. It's certainly not bothering him, so we'll move on. Case closed. Who knows? We'll find out at the end of the race. Back at the front, though, and it's Montoya that leads, but he has company. Tooley has closed in onto the rear wheel of the Italian, and we do have a leading duo fighting it out for the second win of the day here in the European Moto2 class.
This is a fast lap coming in from Tooley as well. Fastest of anybody in the first and second sectors of this lap, and he was matching Montoya in the 3rd sector. He's now close enough where he can smell the exhaust gases coming off the back of that speed up in front of him, and maybe think about a move down the main straight. As we look at Zaccone, he's in a very lonely 3rd at the moment. Fastest lap of the race this time, quite clearly by a whole 0.2 of a second, goes to Nicky Tooley, and he is now right on the rear wheel of the speed up ahead of him.
He had a good look up the inside into the opening corner, did Tooley. Showed his front wheel to Jari Montoya, but decided against it. Instead, we'll just sit behind him and stalk the Italian as we're on lap number 5 here. Still 13 laps to go, so plenty that can play out here in Estoril, but so far so good for Tooley. It looks like he's made a slight improvement from the opening race today and is now able to run the pace of the Italian.
Yeah, for the first time today, we might actually have a battle brewing in the Stock 600 class as well. Fermin Aldeguer leads it, although he lost half a second on that last lap to Alex Toledo in 11th on the road, and 1 place behind his Superstock 600 rival of Aldeguer. Both riders having very impressive starts today, both teenagers making their debuts in the Superstock 600 class and impressing as well. But our focus is, of course, on the lead outright in this race in the Moto2 class, as Tooley continues to stalk Jari Montoya. Still little to choose between them on this lap, and it looks as if this is going to be another battle that's going to go right the way to the finish.
We just had official confirmation that he is the fastest man on track at the moment, is the Finn. A new fastest lap of the race, not a new lap record. It's just a 1/10 of a second shy of what Montoya was able to do in the opening race of the day, which is unsurprising as well, because obviously that early race was taken part in slightly cooler conditions than the searing 30+ degrees that we're enduring here in Estoril at the moment. So the fact that he's able to get to within a 1/10 of a second is still pretty impressive for the Finn. They come across the line then, 12 laps remaining, still nothing to choose between, and let's take a good look at the bike behind them, as Tooley again just moves to the inside, flirts with the idea, but again decides against it. A lonely 3rd place for that man there, Alessandro Zaccone. Meanwhile, in that fight for 4th place, it is Tulovic that's jumped to the front of that gaggle of 5 riders, with Biszczykowski and Noureddin getting in on the act as well.
Yeah, Noureddin appears to have faded a bit and fallen to the back of that group. He did a 1:43.2 on that last lap, which was a second slower than the riders around him. So I don't know whether he's made a mistake somewhere and dropped back, but in any event, Noureddin, who was running 4th not so long ago, is now at the tail of that group in 8th place, and perhaps will come under pressure very shortly from Tega Harder, the number 23. Tuuli, who is running in 9th place at the moment, just ahead of the 2 Superstock 600 runners. But once again, little to choose. They really are going punch for punch, Montoya and Tuuli. There was just 200ths of a second splitting them on that lap, and they are trading fastest sector times.
They're absolutely throwing everything out there at the moment. These guys are not in tyre conservation mode at all. They're all about trying to give absolutely everything. There's only 12 laps remaining, and they're throwing it all at each other at the moment. So far, Montoya is standing strong from the pressure that's mounting and increasing lap by lap by Nicky Tuuli. Zaccone, meanwhile, in third, a lonely third at the moment, but I think that we may have to start the Jaws music once again, because Tulovic pulled in 2/10 last time around. Surely it's not going to be another case of Tulovic closing in and passing Zaccone in the closing stages for that final podium place. The Italian will certainly be hoping not.
Yeah, and he'll certainly be hoping not, because not only is Tulovic closing, but he's bringing Alejandro Medina along with him in that battle for 4th place. They may well soon both be zeroing in on the back of Zaccone. Speaking of which, the 66 chases the 55, Tuuli in 2nd place. And once again, so little to choose between them on that last lap. Yet again, pretty much identical lap times, and they're in a race of their own at the moment. The only 2 riders in the 141s. The next fastest man on track once again was Tulovic, as he pulls another 3/10 back on Zaccone. The lead for Zaccone is now down to just 2.1 seconds.
It's going to be a matter of when, not if, Lukas Tulovic is able to get onto the rear wheel of Alessandro Zaccone. Certainly, if things carry on as they are. And the dangerous thing for Zaccone is, as you rightly pointed out, Lewis, Alejandro Medina is sticking with him. The sort of unorthodox style of Alejandro Medina, and almost retro style of the Spaniard, as he sort of has the body English length the other way than you would expect. Meanwhile, as Andreas Koffler comes down pit lane, a disappointing end to his opening round for the Austrian. In this fight for 3rd place, Zaccone still there, as we would expect, but Tulovic is dragging Medina with him. Meanwhile, Biesakowski can see those 2 escaping and closing in, and he fancies a piece of the pie, a piece of the action as well. He had a big look up the inside of teammate Cardelus, unable to do it this time around.
Yeah, this might be an all too familiar feeling for Montoya, and he won't like that feeling. Because of course he, for Zaccone, should I say, because of course he led that battle for 3rd for so long earlier on today. Looked like he was in a pretty comfortable 3rd place, and then it suddenly evaporated away from him in the closing stages. It's got that feeling again with Tulovic and Medina zeroing in. Meanwhile, at the front, Montoya is about to cross the line, and this is a quick lap, a 41.5 that time round. And Tuuli once again just about sticking with him, just 10 slower, and they're so far ahead of the rest of the field. Zaccone in the mid-42s, and yet again, that gap continues to come down as Tulovic and Medina close in. Medina setting his fastest lap on the last time around, and he was the fastest man on track, with the exception of the leading 2.
As Biesakowski finally gets the job done on his teammates, 74 through on 18. In a battle between the 2 Team Stylo bike riders. It's exactly what happened in race 1 with Biesakowski getting the better of Cardelus, and it looks like the 18-year-old Pole is going to do the same once again. Now, can he close in on a number 5 of Alejandro Medina ahead and try and get dragged along in the fight for the final podium place? At the front, the gap under a 10th now between Montoya and Tuuli. Still nothing to separate the pair of them, as we see them come over the crest of turn number 6 and work their way down towards turn 7. Hard on the brakes for the right-hander.
Different kind of challenge this for Montoya, because of course he had to come from behind in the first race. He had to make up that ground early on. He had to overtake some people and really be aggressive in the early stages of the race. This time, and I think it might be a deliberate tactic from Tuuli, it's Montoya that's having to set the pace. It's him that's having to dictate the pace of the race and take time and perhaps take wear out of his tyre, while Tuuli can maybe conserve his a little bit in 2nd place, if that's possible. With the pace they're going, I'm not sure whether he's got much chance to do that, but Tuuli can play that watching brief in 2nd place and maybe attack in the latter stages. It's going to be interesting to see if the pressure of leading will affect Montoya, or whether he's just, riding on the crest of a wave from having won the first race earlier on today.
I think we've lost Lukas Tulovic, yes. We've just had confirmation. The number 3 has gone down at turn number 6. The man that was doing all the hard work in closing in Alessandro Zaccone and had his sights firmly set on another podium finish. The German has crashed out at 4th place. There we can see it's now Alejandro Medina that's been promoted into 4th, as Xavi Cardelus responds and gets a little bit of his own back on teammate Pierre Biesakowski. But what a disastrous end for the number 3 as it gets dragged out to the turn 6 gravel trap. Hopefully he's okay. But Lukas Tulovic, having shown his form, his pace in the opening race of the day, at first podium in over 2 years. It's not going to be backed up with another one. He'll remain on 3 European Championship podiums.
Yeah, it's a disaster for Tulovic. Like you say, he'd had such a good start to the day and such a good start to his season with that 3rd place earlier on. Unfortunately, that's sort of music to the ears and a bit of a relief for Zaccone, because he's now got 3.2 seconds in his pocket over Medina. Medina was 6:10 slower that time. In fact, Zaccone really upped his pace and dropped into the 141s for the first time. So it doesn't look as if Medina was necessarily held up by the crash involving Tulovic. He seems as if he was lapping at his normal pace and just kept it on, so that you would assume that Tulovic went down all of his own volition. But of course, we'll hope to get a replay of that just to tell you exactly what happened down at the end of the back straight.
At the front, though, it's still Montoya that leads. That advantage is as large as we've seen it for quite some time now. It was under a 10 for a handful of laps, but now it looks as though Montoya is just starting to put the knife in and twist it as well. 0.4 of a second is his advantage when they came across the line last time. We'll see the leading duo come across the line now, making it 8 laps to go, and it remains at 0.3. But again, he was just a 1/10 of a second quicker, so slowly but surely it looks like Montoya is just starting to assert his dominance over Tulovic.
Yeah, he is 0.3 of a second the lead. They're continuing to lap in the 141s, the leading two. They, once again, are a class of their own. They have 6 seconds over Alessandro Zaccone, who, as I mentioned earlier on, is looking in a pretty safe at the moment 3rd place. He's got nearly 4 seconds over Alejandro Medina, and the question, I suppose, now is, will Medina come under pressure from the 2 Styler bike teammates, because they are closing in at the moment. Cardelus and Bieszczykowski are both closing in on the number 5. Here they are. They're working as a team at the moment and closing in. Whether they will suddenly turn their attentions to each other, we will wait and see. But if they do knuckle down and they do focus on the rider ahead of them, they could soon be fighting for 4th place.
I think there's every chance that they're going to start tripping each other up, though, with a prime example being right now, is it? No, I thought Bieszczykowski right on cue was going to pop out and move past teammate Cardelus. But at the moment, they're doing a great job and working as teammates. But I think it's going to be a question of how long will that last?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be difficult to keep that sort of urge to have a go, especially for Bieszczykowski, who's had such a good start to the day. He's really, showing what he's capable of. He's had an impressive start, and he'll want to match that 5th place they had earlier on. A move on Cardelus would do it, but of course, there's that tantalising prospect of this man, number 5, Alejandro Medina, just up the road, and he's getting closer and closer to them as they continue to zero in. Speaking of zeroing in, Tuli's looking to do exactly the same thing to Montoya. He did pull a 10th back on that last lap. Montoya set his personal best, but Tuli on a 141.3, essentially matching his own fastest lap of the race from the 5th lap of this race, and the gap, as you can see, just a 1/4 of a second. Montoya's not got this on his own way just yet.
And as a result, that drew the classic arm wave over the pit wall from the team Speed Up, the team Chiatti concern. One of the mechanics holding out the pit wall, giving the classic finger wave, the come on mate, get a move on, you've got a race on your hands here, and he certainly does with 7 laps to go. I wouldn't want to pick a winner out of these two at the moment. Remember, Jari Montoya has won over Nicky Tuli at the moment. He was the man that took the first win of the year, and talking of first wins of the year, this man took the opening stock 600 win on the gear. Fermin Aldeguer, here he is on the brakes into turn number 1. Looked pretty perfect, does the number 54. Now up to 9th place, a position higher than what he was earlier today. The sparks fly from the Yamaha R6 machine coming off. What's that coming off of?
Looks like his knee slide is a little bit loose there as well. It looked like it was flapping away on his right knee, but it's in any event, it's not slowing him too much. He's lapping in the 43s. He's slowly being closed down by Alex Toledo in the battle for the leading Superstock 600 runner, but he's still got a comfortable buffer at the moment, and an impressive weekend for Aldeguer. Finished 10th outright earlier on, and of course the leading Stock 600 runner, and at the moment he's on course to go one better here.
Well, has Nicky Tuli just made a small mistake whilst we were focusing in on the Stock 600 leader Fermin Aldeguer, because that advantage is a lot higher than a 1/4 of a second it was this time 1 lap ago. They come across the line now to complete lap 12, and it's 3/4 of a second. Half a second, Jari Montoya has been able to pull out over Nicky Tuli, who himself, the Finn, was a lot slower than what he has been in previous laps. It didn't help that as he made that mistake, Montoya put in his fastest lap of the race. That could be a decisive moment with now just 6 laps remaining. Meanwhile, the fight for 4th place has well and truly closed up now. They have worked as a team, but I think that that's out the window now, with Medina, Cardelus and Biesiakowski all within touching distance of each other.
Absolutely, we're just getting to that crucial stage of the race now. We're at 2/3 distance. Maybe in the heat, as a wide moment there for Medina, which has put him right under pressure from Cardelus. This is the stage of the race where tyres might start to slowly lose their grip, and you do wonder whether that's happening with Nicky Tuuli, because Montoya's pace is holding firm. He's still setting personal best laps of 41.4 on that last lap, but Tuuli dropped into the high 41s. And as for Medina, he did a 1:42.8 that time round and lost a full 6/10 to Cardelus, who is also setting personal best. He's coming on strong late in this race, and he's now having a serious look up the inside of Medina.
And he does not get the job done. Well, I'm surprised at that. I thought he had the advantage going into turn number 7 there, but Medina holds on for the moment. These two, of course, taking a good look at each other before they then fight it out in the FIM Moto E World Cup in just over a week's time at Jerez. But all attention, of course, at the moment is on these Moto2 machines, with Medina at the moment just able to hold off Cardelus and Biesiakowski, who's looming ominously.
Yeah, I think Tuuli may well have to admit defeat on this now. The lead is now over a second. Montoya continuing to hold that pace in the mid-41s, and Tuuli is unable to match it now in these closing stages of the race, as we finally now have a move for Cardelus down the main straight. This one looks like it's going to be much more straightforward for him up against the 5 of Medina. Of course, he had a little half-hearted look up the inside halfway on the last lap. This time, though, he's fully alongside, and he outbreaks the Spaniard as they go into turn 1 and takes 4th place. And now the focus will switch to his teammate Biesiakowski to see if he can follow him through and take 5th spot.
Job done for Xavi Cardelus, through into 4th place. It looks as though that's the best he's going to get today, unless anything dramatic happens ahead of him, because 5 seconds is Alessandro Zaccone's advantage over 4th placed Cardelus. Here's a replay of how he got the job done on the brakes into turn 1, a classic Estoril move. It's been demonstrated perfectly by the number 18. Made it look super easy, and possibly given a little tutorial to Pieter Biesiakowski for next time around.
He's out of shot on this particular replay, but keep an eye on the 23 of Tega Harder. He's not out of this either. He's lapping quicker than the 3 of them who are fighting for 4th, 5th and 6th. Tega Harder, who set a personal best 2nd sector on this lap, he was doing on 42.5. That was quicker than the 3 riders ahead of him, and in fact it was quicker than everyone except the 2 leaders that time around. So the Japanese rider in 7th place might well be making a late burst to try and close in on the battle for 4th spot.
And this is the first time we've been able to have a look at this battle for the lead and the gap at well over a second now. 1.5 seconds. I think Tuuli has given up. It's game over for the Finn. He's not going to be able to get the better of Jari Montoya this time around. The Italian's pace has just been so consistent, so fast as well. Again, another mid-41.5, whereas Nicky Tuuli is lapping in the 42s now. It looks as though it's Montoya's race to lose with 4 laps to go.
Yeah, and a personal best that time round for the aforementioned Tega Harder. He's very much in this battle now for 4th place, just behind this man, Alessandro Zaccone. You might catch a glimpse of them in the background. No, they're too far behind at the moment to see them. But that battle for 4th place is really closing up, with Cardelus now leading it ahead of Medina. Here they are, and look at the 23 of Tega Harder for the AGR team. He's really showing the late race pace. He's comfortably quicker than the other 3 riders in this 4-way battle, and once again he was a full half a second clear in terms of pace on that last lap. And if he can keep this up with 4 to go, he might well find himself all the way at the front of this group.
Well, he had extremely large shoes to fill, did Tega Harder in 2020, of course, replacing and jumping on to that championship winning bike, the machine that Edgar Pons piloted to the 2019 championship. I don't think the guys were expecting a championship challenge from the number 23. They signed him for the final 3 rounds of 2019 last year, and he's hoping for a development year for the 21-year-old Japanese rider, but finished 8th first time around here in Estoril. Now up to 7th, but I think he's looking further ahead than that. A great performance, great late race pace coming in from the number 23.
Yeah, will they be mauled by the Tiger? In any event, Montoya continues to lead this, and he's still upping his pace at the front. He's just, I mean, he doesn't really need to now. He's 2.2 seconds clear of Thule, but he's still setting fastest sector times, still hammering away in those mid-141s. And Thule, if anything, he's just going to have to give up for a second place now. He's lapping in the 42s, and unfortunately, that's as good as it's going to get. Here comes Hyder. This is the first of the 3 riders he has to try and pick off. He's now drawing alongside Bierschikowski as they approach turn 1. That one was comfortable enough, and now he'll turn his attention to Medina in 5th.
At the front of the race, we've already seen today the classic mechanic over pit wall hurry along sign. I think we're going to see the classic mechanic over the wall calm down sign very shortly, as Bierschikowski has a huge moment there coming out of turn number 2. Luckily he holds on, but he has just lost a little bit of ground off the rear wheel of Tiger Harder. Lucky to hold on there. That was a frightening moment for the pole.
Yeah, it was, and unfortunately, it's kind of the opposite for him as to what happened earlier on, where he came on strong as the race ended. He seems to be fading a little bit now with 3 laps to go. Harder not quite close enough at the moment to have a go at Alejandro Medina ahead of him, as Carl Deleuze continues to lead this group.
Here is a replay of Bierschikowski at the back of the package, just runs a little bit wide, gets onto the curb, and that's a proper tank slapper for the number 74 to deal with, but he dealt with it pretty good and has managed to get his head back down behind the bubble now and close back in, or try to at least, on Tiger Harder. Still Carl Deleuze that leads this battle for 4th though, with Medina sat there in 5th, biding his time possibly after having to give way a couple of laps ago. And Tiger Harder, the Japanese rider, up to 6th place at the moment, which would be a career best finish. And I think he can smell a top 5 here in Estoril. Yeah,
it would. Medina, who finished 6th earlier on, he's currently 1 place better off than that. And Carl Deleuze, who was down in 7th, they've both really improved from earlier on today. Bierschikowski is one of the riders who's certainly dropped off from his performance earlier today. And of course, they're all gaining from the fact that Tulovic, who was up ahead of these guys earlier on in the podium spots, is out of contention, having had that crash at turn 6. Turn 1 once again for Harder. This time, though, he's unable to outbrake Medina into the first corner. He's got 2 more laps to try and close these guys down.
Talking of 2 more laps to go, that's exactly what this man, Jari Montoya, has to pick up a double win here at Estoril. We won't curse him just yet after what happened this time last year when he was leading the race at this stage and crashed out, with Nicky Thule picking up the pieces in 2nd place through to 1st on that occasion. I'm sure he'll be hoping not to do exactly the same this time around. It looks really easy for the Italian at the moment. He's extended his gap now to over 3 seconds, with Thule, I think, throwing in the towel and just easing that team's stylo bike Kalex home to another 2nd place finish.
Yeah, I think he'll settle for this Thule. Of course, he started last season even better than this. He got a 2nd and a 1st at the first round of the season, so perhaps he'll have been wanting to go a little bit better than what he has today with a 2 and a 2. But with 40 World Championship points, or 40 European Championship points, should I say, that's not a bad start to his season at all. And of course, with rounds to come, he'll expect to close in on Montoya.
I think this is something that we may well see a lot of throughout this European Championship and the World Championship this year as well. With so few races, we may well see guys, instead of throwing everything at it to try pick up a win, they know that 20 points is going to be far more beneficial to them than the possible 0 by throwing everything at a potential race win. They know with fewer races, a DNF will be far more costly than normal, which is possibly why we're seeing Thule use his head on this occasion and decide that 2nd place is good enough for him today, with another 9 races to come in this championship.
And not just a crash in a DNF, but a potential injury to go with it, which of course Thule knows all about from last season. He got injured and missed a number of rounds. An injury this year would be even more costly. Once again, Tiger Harder shows his wheel into turn 1, but once again, Medina better on the brakes and able to hold him off. We're on the final lap now, and Carl Deleuze just continues to hold the edge in this battle for 4th. Bierschikowski seems a little bit too far back now and looks like he's nailed down there in 7th place, but 3 riders still with an eye on 4th position. It's still advantage Carl Deleuze.
Certainly is, as we go through turn 4, now into turn 5 on the climb uphill. This is extremely steep, having ran round it yesterday. The man that is fairly comfortable in 3rd place at the moment is Alessandro Zaccone. It's going to be a first podium of the year for him after missing out by the narrowest of margins earlier on today. But who's going to take this almighty scrap for 4th place? Currently, Carl Deleuze holds the X-card and he nearly tucks the front there. The front nearly folds. He somehow holds onto it, but as a result, he runs wide. And Medina picks up the pieces to go fourth. Here comes Cardelus looking to respond immediately, but it's Medina that holds fourth place on the final lap. Oh, what a save that was from Cardelus. The front end absolutely folded from beneath him.
Yeah, he looks a little too far back to make a move into turn 9 either. Montoya, though, way out front, all on his own, and just a few metres to go now.
Out to the final corner comes Jari Montoya. We banished the demons of over 12 months ago earlier on today, and now he's put a final nail in the coffin with a double here in Estoril. Starts the season in perfect style, does the Italian. Second place for Moto2, third place for Alessandro Zaccone, and Alejandro Medina is going to salvage fourth place on the final lap ahead of Xavi Cardelus. He gets one up his fellow Moto2 rider just 1 week out from the season opener in that championship. But one mention certainly has to go to Tiger Harder. The Japanese rider gets his best ever European Moto2 result in 6th place. A super ride through the field from the number 23.
Yeah, Bishikowski over the line in 7th. Adam Norodine, after a good start, faded to 8th. And a close battle in the end for the leading Superstock 600 rider. Fermin Aldeguer, once again the leader of it, but he held off Alex Toledo and beat him over the line by just 0.7 of a second.
As Lewis sort of puts down his headset and jogs off towards Parc Fermé to speak to Jari Montoya on a second time today. He's getting rather close and comfortable with the number 55, speaking to him once again as he has a big hug. Not much social distancing going on there, but I don't think he's particularly bothered after picking up a second win. Of course, only a second ever career win in this European Championship. Coming into today, he'd never even stood on the top step of the podium, and he's going to exit Estoril having done it twice. Moto2, he's picked up victories before, and I'm sure he's going to pick one up by the end of the season if he shows form like that, but only good enough for second place today. Montoya just had his number, not only today, but all weekend. But he'll regroup and come again in Portimao this coming Monday afternoon. 2 races there, incidentally, for the Moto2 guys. And also singular races for the Junior World Championship and the European Talent Cup as well. So make sure you join us for that one. There'll be Jack Gorse and Elliot York in the box talking you through that one. 13th of July, this coming Monday. 4 races from Portimao, not to be missed. Incidentally, from then, it's all action, really. On the 29th of August and the 30th of August, we've got races on Saturday and Sunday from Jerez. Then we have about a month off before on the opening weekend of October. Again, on the Saturday and the Sunday, we've got races from Aragon. And then the season finale finishes with a double header on the 31st of October and the 1st of November from Valencia, where the championships will no doubt be decided. Where that man right there will be hoping to peel a number 55 off the front of his speed up and put a big fat number 1 on board it. Certainly looks like that could be a real possibility. A great start to life from Jari Montoya. 7th in the championship last year, with only a couple of podium finishes, and to be frank, he got a little bit of a tag as being quite loose on the bike, and he took out a couple of guys in Albacete, I remember, including his teammate at the time as well. But it looks as though he's come back over the winter rejuvenated and ready to go. He looks a much more mature and a much faster rider as well. At great pace all weekend here, and despite the different incidents and penalties that have been thrown his way for various things, he's battled against them brilliantly to take the double win. A well-deserved drink as well after putting 18 laps in at that pace around the scorching Estoril circuit. The temperature here well over 30 degrees. Shaking of hands, great sportsmanship as we always get in the FIMCV Repsol series by Moto2 as the pair of them discuss and debrief their race. I think they're both saying that we're struggling from a little bit of grip there, possibly in the closing stages. Thule was there, just showing by those hand gestures. He certainly doesn't look delighted, but I think over the next couple of hours, when he's able to digest and really look back on today's action, he will be pleased with 2 second-place finishes. Montoya just had the edge this weekend, but he'll be hoping to be able to fight back in Portimao. And 3rd place, finally, a podium finish for Alessandro Zaccone. Missed out by just a handful of milliseconds earlier on today, but the man that finished third in last year's European Moto2 Championship is back onto the podium and has started life with a good pair of results here in Estoril. Of course, a fourth trip to the podium for the man who will also be in Moto2 this year, teammating the world champion, the inaugural world champion Matteo Ferrari, Alessandro Zaccone, part of the Gresini concern in the FAM Enel Moto2 World Cup. Just getting weighed, as you can see at the back of the picture, whereas Jari Montoya there, I'm sure very quickly he's going to get a tap on his right-hand shoulder and told to come across to speak to our Lewis Sotheby, who's managed to take a position in shade, which is very, very sensible of him to do so. He's currently still just having a little bit of a debrief. He's Jari Montoya there, so we will have to wait a few moments. Gives a good opportunity to let you know that any of the races that you have missed today, you can catch up on them on the FIMCEV Repsol YouTube channel and, of course, on MotoGP.com as well. And with the MotoGP World Championship resuming in just over a week's time, MotoGP.com and MotoGP Video Pass is the place to watch every single second of every single session. And now here he comes, Jari Montoya. He's had his chit-chat, he's had his debrief. Now let's hear what he's got to say after doing the double in the European Moto2 Championship here in Estoril. He's 2 meters socially distanced from my co-commentator for the day,
Montoya,
Lewis
your
Sotheby.
second win of the day, started from pole position this time and led from the front. Well done. Your second win of the day, started from pole position this time and led from the front.
Yeah, I'm very happy again. I concentrated only on the pass, lap by lap, lap by lap, lap by lap, and I'm really, really happy. I will thank all my team, all my family, all my sponsors, my manager, my coach Ezio Gianola, and nothing.
And in Italian?
Sono veramente, veramente felice. Mi sono concentrato molto sul ritmo, giro dopo giro, giro dopo giro. Ho cercato di mantenere un ritmo costante fino alla fine e sono veramente contento. Voglio ringraziare con tutto il cuore veramente il team, gli sponsor, il manager, il mio coach Ezio Gianola e niente. Aspettiamo Portimao ora.
Well done.
For the first time today, Jari Montoya was able to start from pole position after being handed a penalty for our opening Moto2 race of the European Championship. But despite starting from pole, he was unable to take the whole shot. That went the way of fellow Italian Alessandro Zaccone, who himself was determined to take a podium finish after missing out by the narrowest margins earlier on today. There was an early technical problem for Nicholas Chiba, the German in the stock 600 class, unable to complete the opening lap. Despite not being able to take the whole shot, Montoya quickly was able to get in front of Alessandro Zaccone and looked like checking out at the front of the race. But Nicky Tully had different thoughts getting through to second place. There was drama behind where something, it appeared, flew off of Alejandro Medina's bike, but it didn't affect the Spaniard at all. He was able to take control of that fight for fourth place after Lukas Tulovic had crashed out, despite showing signs that he might have been able to close in on Alessandro Zaccone, just like he did in race 1. At the front, Montoya led the way as both him and Tully shared lap after lap, with an extremely impressive pace put in by the pair of them. There was Tulovic crashing out at half-race distance, handing Medina the advantage in this fierce fight for fourth place. He was eventually joined by Cardelus and Bierzakowski, with Tiger Harder getting in on the mix as well. Cardelus made his move at the opening corner, but then on the final lap nearly took the front. It forced him wide and allowed Medina to come back through into fourth. But it was all about Jari Montoya, the Italian doing the double for the first time in his European Moto2 career. 50 points, a perfect start for the number 55. As a result of that then, Jari Montoya takes victory, 3.7 seconds clear of Nicky Tully, and as a result takes control of the championship, now 10 points clear of Nicky Tully after he picked up the perfect 50 here in Estoril. It's finally a podium finish for Alessandro Zaccone, with Medina just getting the better of Cardaluz, Harder and Biesakowski in that fight for 4th place. Fermin Aldeguer takes the Stock 600 win once again, despite being pushed all the way by Alex Toledo, with point-scoring finishes going the way of Ishizuka, Wilfred Rato, Diaz and Alessandro Zetti, the Italian bouncing back from a crash earlier on today. Jake Archer just misses out on the points before he then heads to the British GP2 series, which will be getting underway in about a month's time.
The race winners team Chiatti Speed Up.
Here we go then, the final podium presentation of the day, and another chance for the Team Chiatti Speed Up guys to take home a team award. I'm sure it's a walker journey that they were hoping to make in Jerez in over a week's time as well, when they'll be in the garage with both Jorge Navarro and Fabio Di Gianantonio.
Presenting the trophies is Mr. Federico Nunes, City Councillor of the Cascais City Hall. Mr. Federico Nunes is now.
So here we go, Federico Nunes, I think that was, if I was listening right. Yeah, there he is. Mr. Federico Nunes, City Councillor of the Municipality of Cascais, which is the region that we're in at the moment, handing out the team trophy to one of the Team Chiatti Speed Up members. There you go, just to the right, to our victor in the Stock 600 class, Fermin Aldeguer. Now he'll go to the 3rd place finisher, Alessandro Zaccone. It looks like I've got a parrot with our circuit commentator here in Estoril, just copying exactly what I'm saying, as he said there. Nicky Tully's going to take the win, and I'll let our Portuguese friend do the honours here.
Federico Nunes presenting the trophy. And the trophy to the winner, Yari Montella, and also
brilliantly job by my Portuguese friend. Yari Montoya takes victory in the European Moto2 Championship, his 2nd of the day. It's been a day for doubles here in Estoril. Another €250 check from Repsol, and now the Italian national anthem.
Congratulations, Yari Montella. Congratulations to you all.
There is the Italian national anthem, joyous as ever, sounding out here around the Estoril circuit. And just like they did for David Alonso, they gave him a little bit more of it this time around as well, as a nice pat on the back for taking his 2nd win of the day, proven there by his perfect 50-point haul from round 1 of the season. 10 points behind Nicky Tully, but with 9 races still to go in this congested FIM-CEV Repsol calendar, it's all still to play for. That's our final race of the day, done and dusted. It's a huge thank you from me, Jack Appleyard, and Lewis Sotheby sat alongside me for all of his hard work throughout the day. And a thank you to you as well for joining us as two-wheeled World Championship action finally got back underway. The good news is you don't have to wait as long as you had to before this one for the next little bit of action. Just 6 days' time we'll be in Portimao. Jack Gorst and Elliot York talking you through 4 races from the Autodromo Algarve in Portimao. Do not miss that one. And then, of course, it's time for the big boys to take centre stage. July 17th, the MotoGP World Championship is back. Follow it all on MotoGP.com. But today, there's been a day for doubles. Yari Montoya in Moto2, David Alonso in the European Talent Cup. Meanwhile, in the Junior World Championship, First Blood went the way of Xavi Artigas by just 0.03 of a second. We've had a super day. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.